Do the obviously motorbike training. So there could be a number of assets here, so hopefully we can convince them to pay from very early on.
The claimant in the case is keen motorcyclist Derek Bradshaw.
I first started motorcycling when I was a young lad at 16, and I just immediately fell in love with it. And then to go out and purchase my first bike was really an exciting day for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's been a good passion of mine since.
When he was recently made redundant, Derek thought he might be able to turn his passion into a new career.
So I was looking for something different from what I'd been doing before. Having ridden motorcycles for many, many years, I thought being a motorcycle trainer would be the way forward.
Derek contacted local company Abbey Motorcycle Training Limited to see if they might be able to help.
Mr. Smith, who employed me at Abbey Motorcycle Instructors, he was actually the gentleman that taught me to pass the new motorcycle tests, and that's why I went back to him to find out if he was looking for motorcycle instructors. He seemed very pleased that somebody had gone from being a student of his to wanting to be a tutor. He was very positive about it, and he was agreeable on terms, conditions, payments, etc., daily rates. Finding a job that involved motorcycling, something I thoroughly enjoyed, and was willing to help others get enjoyment from that particular pastime. It is like a dream job. Your hobby becomes your job. What more can people ask for?
Excited by the opportunity, Derek took the plunge and invested his own money to make sure he'd hit the ground running.
I went to work for him, got myself trained up, got myself sorted out, brought all the equipment to be able to become a motorcycle instructor, and was doing it quite happily for a period of time.
But just 2 months later, he hit a bump in the road.
It started to dawn that he wasn't willing to pay when requested. I was submitting invoices, and they just were not being paid by him, I'm afraid. He said, yes, I can pay you next week, I can pay you next week, and next week never really came. I started to get very despondent with him.
Not wanting to let anyone down, Derek kept on going.
I continued because of the commitments to the students that he'd already made. I didn't want to let those people down. They wanted to learn to ride. I continued to teach them. I continued to sign their certificates. But unfortunately, Mr. Smith wasn't paying me.
By now, Derek was running desperately short on cash and struggling to run the family home.
Without that extra income from myself coming in, it made it very difficult to survive. We really had to cut right back on certain things. You have to think about what you're going to purchase and when you're going to purchase it, and be aware that sometimes an extra bill might just come in that you weren't expecting. My wife works, but we still needed that little bit of extra money to pay those bills. I just couldn't afford to not be paid at all.
With no sign of his money from Abbey Motorcycle Instructors Limited, Derek felt he had no choice but to go to court. When the director, Jim Smith, didn't turn up to the hearing, a default judgment was made in Derek's favour. When that wasn't paid either, he instructed county court bailiffs.
And the bailiffs went out there a number of times over a period of time, and eventually came back to me and said they'd had no money from Mr. Smith, hence taking it one stage further.
Derek has had a High Court writ issued, so there's one remaining hope of him getting what he's owed.
That's what sort of prompted me, having seen it on the TV, to contact the sheriff.
As Tommy and Mike navigate the country roads outside Abingdon, they're hoping that getting Derek's money back for him will be a straightforward job.
That's it.
Are you joking me?
Abbey Motorcycle Instructors.
Reached your destination.
Porter cabin.
But the site isn't quite what they'd expected, and the plentiful assets they'd hoped to find are nowhere to be seen.
Shall I spin round and see what's in these ice air containers, mate, as we go down?
Yeah, because that ain't looking too good, is it?
No, mate.
Oh, hang on.
Got bikes though, mate.
Turn around, I'm going to have a chat with him.
As the sheriffs pull up, they're met by company director Jim Smith.
High Court Enforcement Agent, Abbey Motorcycle Instructors Limited. Are you director of the company or?
Yeah, what's this all about?
It's to do with a High Court order.
High Court order?
Yeah, claimant being a Mr. Derek Bradshaw.
I paid that one online back in January.
It's not been paid, sir. That's what we're here today to enforce it. £2,465.
Mr. Smith appears to be confused, and with a customer waiting for a lesson, is in an awkward position. He asks our cameraman to leave the site. But Tommy and Mike are going nowhere.
It's £2,465. We're here to enforce it today, that's why we're here.
Mr. Smith is sticking firmly to his story and insists that he's already paid the debt.
I don't know what to say to you, but I know there's been no payment on this case from our side. The only way we can work with you is that we can give you roughly an hour here today. We have to resolve it today.
Mr. Smith says there's no way he can raise the money in an hour. So Tommy runs through the alternatives.
The only other option we have today then is to take assets and give you 7 days to resolve it. Our job here today is to see what assets are here and take them. We still give you an option to pay. If you can't pay it, then unfortunately they're going to expect us to remove goods today. And obviously, unfortunately, it does escalate to a further cost.
Realising the gravity of the situation, Mr. Smith calls his wife to see if she can bail him out. Meanwhile, the sheriffs begin to list the assets.
So there you've got the helmets, in there you've got the radios as well.
There isn't a lot here, but the presence of a few motorbikes might make all the difference.
They're quite dated, some of the motorbikes, but they are all company owned to the limited entity, which is great, what we want, because if it's not be paid, we will be removing them. I've got a number of keys at the moment, which I've taken control of from the motorbikes. So if it doesn't pay, obviously we'll be looking to remove them. He's currently trying to get the funds together at the moment, so I'm giving him, within the hour, we want this paid, I've explained to him. Gut instinct is, I think we'll get this paid. It's going to be a struggle, but I think he's going to get the money together.
The sheriffs wait it out in the sweltering heat to see whether Mr. Smith can indeed raise the money. Eventually, it looks like the pressure may have paid off. Mr. Smith's wife arrives, and she's brought cash.
Thank you. I'm just going to sit here a sec so I can count it. 10. I'm getting there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll give you a receipt for it. And it's all paid in full. Thanks for your time, guys.
The sheriffs have succeeded where the county court bailiffs failed, and have managed to get Derek's payment in full.
The director of the defendant company, James Smith, said he clearly couldn't pay. He was saying there's no way he can make this payment today. We explained further enforcement's going to continue. Also, we took control of the keys for the motorcycles, so secured them where they were. At this point, that generated a payment forthcoming. So it's a full payment in cash today, and it's another happy client.
Within 4 weeks, I've got the cheque in my hand to say, yes, it's all done and dusted. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's really made a difference. It's allowed us to get back on track with 1 or 2 bills, and we're away. It was such an easy process to go through, and to get the money back so quickly was absolutely marvellous. I would just like to say thank you to the sheriffs that actually went out to Mr. Smith and got the money back for me. It was a good job, well done.
Mr. Smith told us that it was not his intention to avoid paying Mr. Bradshaw. He says when the company was taken to court, it had cash flow problems and could not pay immediately. He says he later attempted to make the payment online and thought the matter had been settled until the enforcement agents arrived. In central Manchester, Rob and Gerald have been at a curry restaurant for more than an hour. They're looking for £3,800 owed by a company called EZE Manchester Limited to a fire protection company. Staff here claim the restaurant doesn't belong to the debtor.
That's our company. That's the one.
But Rob and Gerald think it does.
That VAT number there goes to a company called EZE Manchester Limited.
need an answer.
So far, there's no sign of the staff being willing to pay, so the sheriffs are now raising the stakes.
You're going to have to shut it down. We're going to remove. All right? That's it. End of.
Can you ask everyone to leave? We're now shutting the place and clearing everything out now.
All of a sudden, Rob gets a phone call. It's from a man who says he's the owner of the restaurant, and he's armed with excuses.
I'm sorry, if you're giving the wrong VAT receipts out, that's not my problem. At the moment, I've now got a reasonable suspicion. EZE Manchester Limited were clearly here. All right, you're saying you're a new business that's taken over, yet you're using their VAT number. So now I need to see proof of purchase of all the goods in the property, and I need to see it now or it'll be removed.
The man on the phone insists that all the goods here belong to the new business and can't be removed.
Unless it's paid, I'm going to remove goods now and wait for you to put a third-party claim in. I'll pass you back over. He's saying he purchased everything in this property himself and then sold it to the business. I don't. I'm not having it.
With the restaurant closed, unhappy customers now have to leave, giving Rob and Gerald the chance to tot up the cash in the tills.
190, 200.
And the liquid assets.
25 champagne bottles. There's 48 bottles of wine. £4 a bottle for the wine, that's cheap for the wine. So we've got 200 there. Champagne bottles, you call it a tenner a bottle, 250 quid. The spirits, again, call it a tenner a bottle, we've got 400 quid there. So we're looking almost £1,000.